welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. Today we are going to be talking all things virtual reality. How exciting is that? My guest is Rosanna Cotino, founder of Edged VR, which is a virtual reality company that focuses on helping students learn future skills in immersive technology. It's all around being based on a holistic approach to develop creative and critical skills such as collaborations, solving problems, design and systems thinking. And so students can then learn how to apply these skills in the future business world that they're going to inherit. So Rosanna has extensive experience in technological change. She's into implementing training and learning initiatives. She's really well studied. She's got a master's degree in business management and is a prolific researcher in the VR industry, where she shares her passion and knowledge about this very topic, and she's going to do that with us today. So welcome to the program, Rosanna.
Thanks so much. Wow, what a great intro. Thank you.
It's always weird when someone introduces you. It's like, yeah, that's me. I'm pretty awesome, aren't I?
Who is this person? I want to meet her.
I know. Well, let's just do that now. So let's just tell us, the listeners, right from the beginning, before we go back into your journey and what you do, what is virtual reality? If you're listening in, you're thinking like me, you might have gone to, an event at one time and put some little goggles on and thought, okay, what does it look like? Is it all about looking at things from a 3D perspective? What have you created, and how does that help the learners to be able to do those more complex things, such as solving problems with it or collaborating with others?
Yeah. So virtual reality is quite a combination of things. And often, you say people have put on the headsets and they go, oh, wow, this is great. Like I can go into a different world. I can go to a different country. I can go into worlds that are created, computer generated worlds. And that's all the virtual reality that you can experience. And it's almost like a little bit of experiential learning, we call it, because you kind of go through an experience, what you're learning as you're doing it, and it can be a gamification type of experience. And but what we do is we actually use the background as 360-degree images. So you could do a computer-generated 3D background, or you could create a 360-degree background, which is actually filming taken with a 360-degree camera of a real space, of an existing space. So it actually enables and empowers the user of our systems to go out and explore different areas around them, different scenarios that they encounter, by creating that background, which is real, in a real world situation, and then bringing those images back into our software and building some interactive content around that for a learning experience.
Oh my gosh, my mind is just racing with the possibility right straight up front. I know I'm a closet geek and I just absolutely am so excited about this conversation, because I'm just imagining being at school, or one of my kids being at school, and thinking you could put your goggles on and suddenly you're in a rocket ship. You could imagine what it's like to be an astronaut, because all the visuals around you actually are completely simulating that. So you feel like you're there. Or if you were going to be, in a factory or down a mine, or, any kind of environment in a current or future predicted business environment, you could actually, or even just a pleasurable environment, I'm imagining, you can actually then just put it on and then you're then in it. So then that's how the learning can be, because you can then imagine, pressing those buttons or using certain things, or imagining, does it also, I suppose, come with not just the visual, does it come with, the sounds and the smells and all sorts of things that would just make you feel like you're totally there?
You're totally immersed, right? Correct. Yeah. So we actually specialize with current environments. So not so much the future ones. Those future ones are great to build in development software, but our area of expertise is really looking at current current location. So, for example, teachers can take their students and go on an excursion or a field trip and film what they're doing, and then bring that back and create an experience and share it with the rest of the school. Or they can film the actual school and create experiences around different classroom, different projects that students have made. They can film that in a 360 background, and then build a whole virtual experience of your school, where you can tour the school, where you can look at products that students have made in year 12, for example. So it's actually bringing sort of the real world into a virtual environment. So this is the difference, I think, that people struggle with sometimes, and this is where we're finding is quite an opportunity for us to help with the learning curve for teachers and students. Yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking that straight up front, imagining one of the biggest challenges is going to actually be the teachers. And there's no disrespect there, but this is a whole new space that they're not trained for. So then when someone comes in, like, you know, with a product like yours, and the kids would just be so fascinated, because immediately I'm thinking, now there's so many experiences that you have, you know, in school that you couldn't have shown to anyone else. You know, mum and dad missed it because they're working, or you want to show Nana overseas, or you want to, you know, even just share your incredible experience. So now, you know, with this technology, you can actually, you know, your opportunity to share an experience or a learning or with others is just incredible. But what's triggering me is the poor teachers are going to go, oh my gosh, I've got no knowledge about this whatsoever. And you're relying on them to be able to then get access to the children to be able to have this opportunity. So how does that work when you go into schools?
Yeah, you know, spot on, Annie. I think we've been we're a startup, so we've sort of 2 years in the making, and we've spent a lot of time talking to teachers. And with the whole COVID situation that's, you know, coming to an end now, I think teachers are pretty exhausted with taking on their current workload, let alone, you know, more information, trying to, you know, learn new things. And they definitely are looking for exciting ways to engage their students where it won't be too hard for them to implement. And so what we found, the biggest thing was to actually upskill the teachers. So we do actually do a lot of teacher professional development and training. I was recently came back from Adelaide, where I ran a workshop at the Science Association for Teachers in South Australia. Great way to, you know, get feedback from teachers to see what their level is, and then just help them understand the use case that they're looking for. And then also, obviously, you know, to give them that knowledge about how to use the technology. So we do find that's really one of our key focus areas this year, has been to upskill teachers in the technology. And then I think another big challenge for them is this hurdle of getting through the internet and the Wi-Fi. And even though the IT department works, sometimes technology doesn't work. And that's not mainly the technology problem, it's the access through things that school block, like there's firewalls and there's, you know, connectivity issues. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge for us to work with different schools, and different schools have each got their own issues around that. So it's not a one fix type of fits all solution. But we have actually launched into a complete offline product, which we are have done a little bit of a soft launch, but we're looking at doing a bigger launch later this month, where it involves everything offline. So very excited about that. That's coming up.
That is very, very exciting. I can imagine it's almost easier for you just to arrive with your own Wi-Fi that you tap into. I know it's going to break a few school codes, but that's right. Relying on a struggling, you know, particularly a public system or just the bandwidth and so forth. And there's nothing more disappointing than having this amazing, exciting day happening and then the technology fails because you can't access the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I know that you would be smack onto that and making sure that, yeah, that's right, you're developing ways around that all the time, just so that guaranteed learning experience. So you did a master's in business management, though. So how does this woman who's done you're into business management, how did you get all techie and how did you think this was a really great idea, an opportunity for you? How did you get those skills to go, you know what, I'm going to go into virtual reality?
Yeah. So I've probably got around 25 plus years experience in corporate technical change and system software implementation. And I think there came a time in my life, with the kids, I've got the 3 kids and we moved countries, South Africa, the UK, Australia. And I felt like it was time to do something for me. And I'd always wanted to do a degree. And I thought, well, this is my chance. I had a little one who was, 1 year old. I don't know what I was thinking. I enrolled in a master's degree. And then it kind of just grew from there. I'm kind of in a sort of space where I love studying and I love learning about new things. So kind of just worked out that with my love for technology and with a way to try and help solve something. My husband had a business where he was training a lot of staff, and I just said to him one day, I'm sure we can find something that can work so that we can reduce the training time for you. And then I tried to put the two things together and basically came up with a solution that we could do it in VR. So it kind of grew legs, and then we went, well, to do this, we actually need to start with students because it's a great piece of technology, but we need to upskill our students on how to use it and how to be creators. And then this business just grew from that. And, it's been validated so many times when you speak to teachers, this is really something that they would love to get their students to start working with. Other businesses in this area have also just, come out and said, this is exactly what we were waiting for, getting students the opportunity to create their own content and experiences. So it is a little bit, I think, ahead at the moment where I think teachers, schools, they're still thinking about consuming ready-made content. And they sort of, they still at that point where, let's look at something in virtual reality, let's experience something. So we're just that next step ahead where we say, let's do more. Let's get the students, let's get their digital skills, let's, improve the way they think. Let's bring in the STEM component, which is a real big thing for schools where you integrate science and technology and maths and engineering. So let's try and cross over a couple of subjects rather than just stay siloed in one particular subject like technology or multimedia for this type of application. And
I really love that. I love the way, I'm imagining, one of my sons who's got a VR set and is in his computer game, but it's all sort of made for you. And so you're in this experience, yes, but in a way it's kind of like a luxury, it's pre-done. The difference of what you're actually focusing on is the creative learning, the action learning that young children, we all need to actually do. But it then gives them ownership, right? Like when you're creating your own space, or your own environment. So that's right. You're getting your digital skills, your photographic, you're putting it together. You've got your design. You've got the teams working together. You're working. How's this all going to work? And then when you've actually created something that actually, is your experience, your life, it is so much more meaningful, right?
The impact of that,
something.
And Annie, you're so right. the impact of having created something from scratch, the agency that the students have when they know they have an objective. So we kind of intertwine a lot of learning in our approach. So we do a lot of collaborative storyboarding, for example, and we talk about how we come up with an idea, but it's got to be suited for the right application. So it's not just photograph or film something. It's really about creating those purposeful projects so that they are meaningful and they can create really great impacts. And so we weave that into the course, and students work in groups. We sometimes depends on how big the group, but sometimes we allocate job roles to the students, so they actually become really they take that ownership, as you say. So we could have like a project manager, but then we could have a creative director, or then we can have sort of the content creators, and you can see how students learn differently. And it's always amazing to work with a group of students who are so interested in what they're doing, and their approach to it is completely different to normal schoolwork. They're not just sitting there taking in whatever has been said to them or writing notes. They're actively hands-on, getting involved. It kind of translates to the way the skills they need for workplace. So I feel like it's making an impact in that respect.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a massive impact because, one, just being able to appreciate that you can create things, you can create new ways of thinking. So even this generation coming through, even in the work environment, as an employer myself, I've seen people go, well, you could do it this way or could do it that way. That creativity, that desire to sort of just, think outside the box and sort of go, I know you've done it that way and that's okay and it's not wrong, but, and then suddenly come up with a whole new, digital way of looking at things, or 3D, or spinning it around, and everyone else in the office just goes, oh my gosh, but why not? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but I love that sort of empowerment to be able to be always thinking of, what is there a better way? Is there a new way? Or also that everything is changing, and that nothing is set in stone, right? So that sort of element as well. Wow. So what's the feedback from the kids?
Yeah. I love that you said that, that it's evolving. It's not necessarily a set. The goal is there when you create something, but it can be whatever the students want it to be, the experience. And so I'll just quickly tell you about something that we teach, and we teach about design in virtual reality. And as a user of virtual reality, when you go into a headset and you look at something, you actually decide where you want to look. You as the user decide which way you want to turn and the way you want to go. So it's very different to watching a movie, because you're just getting shown the point of view of the movie, right? As a VR user and as an experience in VR, the design of it is very different, because the designer can put things out, but they're never going to know which way the user wants to go. So, and that's quite a different way of designing. So it's pretty exciting for students to think they can, apply any kind of design, but, whatever the user makes of it, I think is what the user will feel.
Which shows that we're all very subjective. We've all got our own experience, for going about our everyday, what we look at, how we see things, someone else wouldn't have even noticed, right? Yeah. So this actually shows it, and also it visually it tracks it. So the analytics of this is just so cool, because I'm imagining even in the areas, one in medicine, for example, I've just finished a role as a CEO of Glaucoma Australia. So in eye disease, if you have a virtual reality that you could actually detect, well, the people with an eye disease that they can't see their peripheral wouldn't have been able to see those certain things. So you could almost be watching just a movie or a scene, and if you don't look to something, it means that you haven't seen it. So like from a science perspective, amazing. From a shopping center perspective, oh my gosh, like the marketing team would absolutely love this, because they pay a lot on their displays and how you lay out stores. And if you actually had people who had that simulation and actually saw, well, what do they look at? Is it the colors? Is it the way it was laid out? If we all walk through a simulated environment in a different way, I think it would massively affect organizational change and aspects like that. So,
well, Annie, you've definitely onto something with that. Definitely, 100%. It's not the analytics I've built into our software, but wow, that is.
I know, I've got a very inquisitive mind. I'm always looking at sales marketing going, yep, that's a freebie for someone out there. You need to hook up with Rosanna here, because this is, I'm telling you now, if I was one of those, if I was designing, even my own little shop, if I had a shop, a boutique or a hairdressers or anything, there's so many decisions that you make where you place something, where someone's going to notice it, what they're looking at. And so that whole thing, you could actually, create a 3D image of your shop in 5 different ways, and actually track where people look at it with their from a VR experience, and it would massively shift where you actually place things and set things up.
Definitely capturing data
money.
like that. Yeah. Something. Definitely.
You'll have to bring me on board for your marketing team. So how has it been then tapping into this whole new space as a startup? When you're starting up in this space, you're obviously, super qualified for it. This is your gig. You're absolutely loving it. You're seeing that it's necessary, but you've also then come into a new environment. I'm assuming, every market has other people positioned in it. How have your competitors responded to this? Is it a competitive space? How have you navigated that?
Yeah, it's I say 2 years we've been doing this, but I think within the 2-year time frame, we're actually quite mature for this industry. In this particular area that we're in, the immersive industry is quite large. There's VR, there's AR, there's different hardware, there's software, there's lots of elements of it, And this sort of authoring, the tool that we have is an authoring tool so that students can create. There's not much. Look, in Australia, there's not much competition for this right now in the school and education space. In the UK, well, really overseas, I've actually partnered with a company from Germany who helped with the development of my software, and we've created this offline version together, which is a fantastic solution. But I am often talking to people all over the world, because I think in Australia it's still slow in growing, this industry. The actual industry itself, there's quite a few people in the research area now, which is good. They're starting to definitely bring that out more in the universities. And as I say, there's so many different parts of this immersive area. The technology, the hardware, the headsets seem to come more from sort of China or the US currently. I don't actually know if there's any headsets coming out of directly from Australia. I haven't seen at all. And, I'm pretty much looking at the market constantly. In the space of creating content where you have ready-made content, that's booming. There's so many people that do production now, and the shift for photographers is pretty easy to do. So production companies or film companies, movie making companies, the shift is easy enough. So they can refocus and look at that area, because the film, you need different camera, you need different equipment, but it's kind of aligned enough so that they could do the switch. And that's starting to grow a little bit. That part of the industry, definitely. We work with some contractors. So we've got, a contractor who filmed the Sydney Harbour Bridge and all of that for us. The Opera House, we got that all filmed out so that students can use that to create with. We also got people in South Australia that produce farm imagery and beautiful images, using drones to film, like really get the whole expansive space of the farmlands, and then also just deep dive into different things like the tractor, how the tractors harvest carrots, for example, or what's happening on a pig farm, like how does that work, and really interesting stuff that students would never really come across unless they physically go to that space. And so bringing all that content into our application allows students to then use that content and then build something from that, and not only just consume it, but actually think about how they can use those pieces of media to create a story or to build on something. So it's been really amazing. I'm part of this network group called XR in Education.
Mm-hmm.
And so we meet 4 times a year, and it includes industry, it includes content creators, schools, universities, whoever's interested in this technology. So I think it's the first sort of real big one in Australia that, they're trying to combine all of the areas, because we kind of all need each other. We work, well, combining everything together, so yeah.
I think all entrepreneurs need each other, just to stay connected, to learn off each other, to support each other, just to get ideas from each other is so invaluable. I love what you were saying there about, the farming. I'm imagining students, even at an agricultural college, sometimes you'll go and get a work placement, but that's right. If you have a pandemic, well, you can't go on work placement. Or you might get the pig farm, but someone else gets to, that's right, harvest carrots or whatever it is. It allows you in a way to do every experience, so you get that volume. I know sometimes in a variety of courses, you only have the experience that you're lucky to have had, on your placement, based sometimes on very, obscure reasons that, it just happened on the day or whatever. And so I just, that whole experience would be incredible. I also love what you're referring to, which is great for those listening in, to see in a modern day, startup, the collaborative relationships, the relationships that you're building globally to actually make this happen. Because that's it. You might be positioned here in Australia, but that's right. All the components of what you require could be sourced from anywhere in the world. You want to be watching what they're doing. So it might be price, it might be quality, it might be, different chains of actually getting that product to your market. I think that must be amazing, and that would be a very exciting opportunity for you.
Definitely. And for me, and I guess I'm probably a little bit of a natural networker, and so I kind of fell into that space a lot easier than maybe somebody who isn't. But the opportunity to talk to sort of businesses on a global scale is there, and everybody's open. We've done, we've got partners in France who supply us with beautiful wildlife imagery that next to none. The quality is, absolutely amazing. Under the sea experiences, wildlife safari, in Africa, things that I would never be able to get my hands on, if it weren't for them. China with the headsets, India, we talk to India quite often about what things that schools are requiring and how we can help the Department of Education in India. We launched now in Canada this week, which was our first launch of our new offline product. So we are trying to, stay with a global mindset, maybe is the word to use. Like, have a global mindset, but stay really grounded to the local area, because, like, for Australia, I think it's so key that we build up more skills in this area. So I'm very conscious that if I can provide work for somebody in Australia, then I look for that first, and then go elsewhere if I can't find it. So yeah, it's great. It's great to have that.
I love that. How do you know who to trust when you start launching into, these new relationships?
Wow.
They're exciting, new things are happening, people promise you everything.
Exactly.
But when you're pioneering in a new space, it's risky, right?
Oh, yeah, Annie, that's such a good question. How do you know who to trust? It's hard, and I think, look, I always start with, let's build a relationship before I understand what's involved, and I try and do that. During my studies at uni, when I was doing the master's degree, there was one of our lecturers called Peter Fuda, and he delivered a lesson once in, who do you work with? Like, who do you align yourself with? And there's this quadrant that he spoke about. There's these people that have money, but maybe are not aligned with your philosophy. Then there's people that don't have money that are aligned with your philosophy. Then there's people that, work well and have a different philosophy. So, you kind of, who do you actually work with? And I kind of settled on, I want to work with people that are aligned with what we do and what we're trying to achieve, and that is, bringing this technology to students to enable them and empower them. And that's, for me, is, the key thing. And then the second one is, you do want to work with people you like and build a relationship with them, because ultimately, if you have a partnership, you want to be able to get along and trust and all of that. So I kind of always start with that, like, try and build a relationship, and then, and then if it becomes a partnership, then I'm happy. But build the relationship based on, are we aligned with our thinking and our objective, and then move on to, right, maybe this could be a partnership. So I hope that's the right approach. It kind of, I feel like sometimes it's a hit and miss, but I found that if I've started that way, it feels like it's going.
Oh, I think it's lovely. I think it's have friends first before becoming lovers, right? That's you want to try before you buy. You want to just sort of develop those relationships slowly, and let's just see how we align, right? It's a game, it's a dance, it's important part of business and life, and so that's right. That's the lesson for those listening in, that sometimes, if things sound too good to be true, or so sudden, or making claims that there's just no evidence, there's no breadcrumbs.
That's it.
Then you just go, well, welcome to explore, and then you just see, you just wait to see the evidence. So you can be lovely while being a little bit skeptical, and then go, well, just impress me, right? And you pleasantly, you want to be pleasantly surprised in these sorts of things.
That's it. And just on the trust thing, I think there's two types of people with trust. You start trusting somebody immediately when you meet them, and then you decide by their actions whether you will continue to trust them. And then there's other people that go, I don't trust you until you show me I can trust you.
Yes.
So I think you've got to be, just what person are you? Like, for me, I feel like I trust you until you show me that I can't trust you. That's where I start. I always start with being open and having the trust, obviously with the reservation. Show me that I can continue to trust you, and then I think it is hard, but that's business, right? You have to
That's
be hard.
business, exactly. You've always got to have a little bit of risk. Now let's talk money then. How hard is it as a startup to, keep yourself going? You've launched during a pandemic, for goodness sake. So gold star, incredibly impressive to do that. But I'm assuming with, as soon as you mention technology, my mind just explodes with, oh my goodness, that must be expensive. So it's expensive to set up and to just continually be ahead of the game that's right. You've been talking about the clarity and the quality of your visuals and things like that. So how challenging has that been for you and will continue to be?
Yeah. Look, very, very challenging. And I started off with a little bit of I put in a bit of money to start, but it quickly became apparent that to get the technology to where I wanted it to be, we'd have to spend a lot. And so hence my partnership with the company in Germany. They are the developers now. They support the development of the technology, which I'm, so thankful for. They have done it based on my recommendation. I mean, they could have turned around and said, no, we're not really interested, Rosanna, in what you're talking to us about, but they saw value in what I was trying to achieve. And they said, yes, we want to work with you. We want to build the software to suit what your application of its use will be. And so therefore really, had a blessing in that way. But there are really huge expenses in, the media. And I can only, spend the money that I have. So, it's just coming in slow sort of little dribbles at the moment. So as soon as I've got a bit of funds, we can, do a little bit of development, because not only do we have technology development, we've got program development aligned with curriculum and teacher training modules and student workbooks and websites that support all of this, and subscription fees to everything. So yeah, I'm also quite lucky that I have a partnership with a company that supplies internship for me.
Great.
And that's been really, really great. We've had amazing interns that have worked with us, for 3 to 6 months at a time. And, there's been IT interns, there's been interns from SAE Institute, which is a really great, media production school. There's been interns from the UTS tech departments. I've got actually 2 interns at the moment. One is a marketing one is a tech that's helping. One's helping with the software, the other one's helping me with my marketing. So I've been so blessed to have opportunities to have great people who are aligned, and I think are just excited about working in the space, and then also willing to give up some of their time, and effort to help support, the cause of let's try and help students. I also have to mention the great partner, Carla, who's been working with me, and even more so now in the last few months while we're trying to get everything ready to launch. She's got a background in learning and development, and she's come on board, really, volunteered so much of her time to help build to the point where we're at now to say, right, we can, launch this offline version as well. So I've been pretty lucky, I think, and then, then people say, well, you're not lucky, you've worked for it. And yes and no. I have worked for it, but also I think this technology excites people, and so therefore that's a way in.
Exactly. I think it's a bit of both. Definitely you're luckier when you're lovely and helpful and creative and engaging and thankful and have gratitude and all of those beautiful qualities that you obviously have. So that definitely attracts the positive. And so what a blessing you are. Also, that's right. Sometimes you can just be, in an area that is advantageous to other people to align with, because they're learning those skills, they're getting that on their CV, and that's a win-win. And that's actually wonderful. That's what you want, even if it is, benefiting them. I've had that with people who join boards just to, as a pathway, and you kind of go, well, yeah, but they were still helpful at the time. It's all wonderful. You don't have to. I think you always just be thankful for what you've got, and if you're in an area like you are that is just creating opportunities for interns and young people to actually learn along the way and be part of that while it helps you in your business, I think that is so fantastic. Yeah. Wonderful. I know you said somewhere, I read on yours bio, might have been, it said that you have to be comfortable living in the grey. What does that mean?
I think that's me. I think, we're talking about how do you sort of build other partnerships and relationships, and sometimes, and I think sometimes it's attitude. I think it's sometimes people say things, but they can't reach the target themselves. So you've got to allow, you can't be really like, for me, I feel like you can't be like black and white about stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I meant about grey. Like, I'll give you an example. We, with our German partners, we've been working with them. And so it's been almost like a year and a half that we've, been working together. And, we talk about something and then we come back to each other and go, oh, but, we might need to change it. And, how do you feel about that? And, we move and we shift, and we need to be a bit more fluid and flexible. I think sometimes in business, or even just in life, I think, this
be open.
This or that, and that's why I say it's sometimes quite good to live in the grey and just, move with the direction of where people feel good, where things are going.
Yeah, which doesn't mean you don't have strategy and you're not aligned to, and totally focused in where you are. It just means that you're more flexible. You can pivot quickly. You can move, around obstacles. You adapt, and also you're just respectful and appreciative of new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. And that's right. Often, you can be so into a niche that you think, well, this is the way it's done, and it's kind of like, well, that's the way you've interpreted it. It's a bit like what we were saying with the VR. It's like, well, that's what you look at. That's, and so you get a confirmation bias of that just carries through. And so when you suddenly meet someone who goes, well, I don't see it that way at all, or I would choose to approach it in this way or that way, I think it's I'm all into it. I like that living in the grey.
But I also think it's the stage at which the technology is at. We cannot kind of dig our heels in and say, this is what you have to do. And I think to have a goal, as you say, is the strategy. Have a goal, but you actually need to, it's such an evolving technology that there's, before you kind of put your mind to something, 10 other things have changed, So, and I think it's the way the technology is that has kind of created that way of working for me right now, is that, let's see where it goes. This is our goal. We're going to get there. The way and the path to get there might change, but that's the goal.
Exactly. Do you get frustrated now you're on the cutting edge and you're so into, where your business is positioned? Do you get frustrated in waiting for technology, waiting for innovation? Like, do you get ahead of, I can't wait till they invent this, does that still blow your mind, or do you just still feel like you're just saturated in what you're trying to explore at the moment?
No, there is this, at the back of my mind, there's this one piece of technology that, I keep sort of going back to, and that is where I would like us to get. That is where I'd like the technology to get to. I think we will be able to get there. I just feel like, there's so many things and coming up right now where I don't think there's so many barriers. getting the technology to where it could eventually go to. The main one really is financial.
Yeah.
I think, for me personally, as a small startup, if I had more funds, if it was, if we could get our hands on a lot more, we could do a lot more faster.
Yeah.
There is enough technology there for us to do that right now. It's just the funds haven't got, the funds are not matching.
Universal problem, Rosanna.
They're not matching the speed of my
Exactly. I know that feeling very well. It's like, I'd love to do more and more and more. It just needs money. But that's okay. I think we need to celebrate what we're doing, and that's what we're definitely doing over this conversation today. So how have you found just the practicalities of, this mum putting on this different hat, instead of being in that corporate sphere that you were with regular hours and raising your kids, and now you're working in a global environment, you're growing a business. How have you found the juggle?
Yeah, gosh. It's certainly, as the kids have got older, it's a lot better, but they still need you just as much, right? You just have to be around. And I think having this work from home life is definitely enabled me to do that. But then I do feel my life is almost like 24 hours nonstop. Especially dealing with overseas calls. There's often I'm here starting a meeting at 10:30 at night, but I've taken off 3 hours to cook dinner, hang out with the kids a bit, make sure they're in bed or whatever I need to do. Spend a bit of time with my husband, otherwise he feels neglected, and then back on, at like 10:30 to have a meeting or to do some work. So definitely the intensity of work is really quite, it's pretty heavy. But I've got those moments, where I can get away.
Beautiful. I love the flexibility that's right. It provides, but it also does become a risk that you end up working 24/7 while you're managing all the dream things in your world. And I'm sure you're like me and like all the other working women around the world going, oh my gosh, there's just like, it's really great, but it's also always a challenge, and we need to just speak that out. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy.
And I think what really, really helps me is, I've got an amazing partner who, first of all, supports that supports me in that I'm not, financially standing on my feet right now, and I'm spending heaps of time making this happen. But also the encouragement that I get from him in, you're on the right track, just don't give up, just continue. And that's really been able to make me move forward. Otherwise I think it would be pretty hard.
Yeah, very hard. And you're blessed. We're definitely blessed. And I love the way that you've acknowledged him in that way, that, when you get their support, it just makes everything else so much easier, right? And I know other people don't have that, and just keep chipping away at those relationships, because it does take a village. It does take a team, to actually pull these things off. It's been such a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed your sharing today, Rosanna. For those of you listening in and you want to find out more, you go to edgedvr.com.au, and there you'll find Rosanna, and you'll also find obviously her business. If you're interested in getting this kind of technology, these programs into your schools, definitely go to her website, edgedvr.com.au, and reach out to her, and then you'll see all of her socials as well. You'll also see them on my podcast platform, and also my YouTube channel. And it's been absolutely amazing. Obviously, all of you listening in through the Women's Business Tribe and the Women's Business Incubator, you will have learned so much today. Those listening around the globe, of just what it's like to actually, change tack in your life, go and get the qualifications, believe in a big vision, and then just do that hard work, keep chipping away, collaborate, and realize that it's a global situation that we're all working in now, and there's just so many benefits from that, and there's so many learning curves that we've only just tapped into today. And so I wish you all the best for your future success, Rosanna. It's just been absolutely fabulous having you here today.
Oh, thanks, Annie. Great. So great to talk to you. And you're pretty knowledgeable already with how VR is going. So that's great. Really good.